Welcome to Globewise Entertainment, the channel where hidden Hollywood secrets, banned classics, and bold filmmaking come to light. In today's video, we're diving into part 1 of a gripping series, romantic films that face censorship for being too bold. These are the movies that didn't just tell love stories, they challenged taboos, sparked outrage, and in many cases, got shut down by censors. From raw realism to controversial passion, these films pushed boundaries most studios wouldn't dare cross. If you love fearless storytelling and the hidden history behind cinema's most daring moments, you're in the right place. And if you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, what are you waiting for? Smash that button now. Let us know in the comments, which of these bold films is your favorite or totally shocked you? Let's dive in. 1. Last Tango in Paris, 1972. In a forgotten corner of 1970s Paris, where shadows fell long across the Seine and secrets clung to stone walls, two strangers collided with the fury of heartbreak and the hunger of unmet desire. She was Jean, young, restless, and floating through life like a leaf in the wind. He was Paul, older, broken, and hiding from a grief too deep to name. They met in a vacant apartment, a quiet space echoing with ghosts of past tenants, and the promise of something dangerously intimate. Their affair began without names, without questions, without history. Just skin, breath, and a dance of aching souls trying to forget the world. In that empty room they created a private universe ruled by raw emotion, where love was messy, violent, beautiful, and above all real. But outside their sanctuary, the world wasn't ready. When Last Tango in Paris hit the silver screen in 1972, it ignited a storm. Critics gasped, audiences reeled, and censors slashed. The film's brutal honesty, its exploration of grief and sensuality, and its boundary-shattering scenes stirred protests, bans, and court cases. In Italy, reels were burned. In the US, for many it was too much, a mirror that reflected parts of humanity most preferred to keep hidden. Yet the story of Paul and Jean remains, a haunting tango between despair and desire, still echoing in cinema's most controversial corners. 2. Blue is the Warmest Color, 2013. Love, liberation, and censorship. Few films have stirred as much critical praise and controversy as Blue is the Warmest Color. This 2013 French romance, directed by Abdelatif Kechiche, tells the raw and intimate story of Adele, a teenage girl whose life changes when she falls in love with Emma, a blue-haired art student. Their passionate romance unfolds with breathtaking intensity, marked by beauty, heartbreak, and fearless vulnerability. But that boldness came at a price. Upon release, Blue is the Warmest Color was immediately met with international acclaim, winning the prestigious Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, awarded not just to the director, but in an unprecedented move to the film's two young stars, Léa Seydoux and Adèle Exarchopoulos. Yet just as the accolades poured in, so did the backlash. The film's explicit and prolonged love scenes, raw, unfiltered, and emotionally exposed, sparked outrage in several countries. In the United States, it was slapped with an NC-17 rating, restricting it from most commercial theaters. In countries like Tunisia, Lebanon, and even parts of France, screenings were banned or heavily censored. Critics and audiences were split. Was this artful storytelling or gratuitous exploitation? Behind the camera, controversy deepened. Reports surfaced that the film's production had been emotionally grueling, with both actresses voicing discomfort over how the sex scenes were directed. Seydoux called it horrible and said she felt like igniting debates about power dynamics in the film industry, especially for young actresses portraying. Still, Blue is the Warmest Color remains a groundbreaking moment in queer cinema. Bold, devastating, and deeply human, it dared to show love without restraint, and suffered censorship because of it. Was it too bold for its time? Or was it simply too honest for a world still uncomfortable with female desire told from the inside? 3. Eyes Wide Shut, 1999. The dreamy nightmare that was too hot for Hollywood. When Stanley Kubrick decided to craft his final film, no one expected it would become one of the most controversial romantic thrillers of the century. Starring real-life power couple Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, Eyes Wide Shut blurred the line between erotic fantasy and psychological drama. So much so, it shocked even the studio that backed it. Set in a moody, dreamlike version of New York City, the film explores themes of jealousy and the hidden desires lurking beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect marriage. But what truly sent censors into overdrive was a notorious sequence, set in a mysterious masked orgy attended by a secretive elite society. Kubrick wasn't just showing sex, film scholars would later argue. He was exposing the illusion of control in modern relationships, and that scared people. Despite receiving an R rating, Warner Bros. Was forced to digitally alter several scenes just days before its US release. Mysterious cloaked figures were digitally added to obscure graphic content in the ritualistic orgy sequence, a move that many critics condemned as digital censorship. Internationally, uncut versions were released in Europe and elsewhere, leaving American audiences with a tamer and arguably less authentic version of Kubrick's provocative vision. Even more chilling, the film was released just 6 days after Kubrick's sudden death, leading to decades of conspiracy theories about what he really wanted the world to see. To this day, Eyes Wide Shut stands as a haunting swan song, romantic, bold, mysterious, and undeniably too much for the censors of 1999. 4. A Clockwork Orange, 1971. Love, lust, and brutality collide. Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange isn't a traditional romantic film. Far from it. But its disturbing blend of psychological manipulation and dystopian themes made it one of the most controversial films ever released. At its core, the film examines the human capacity for choice, including love and lust, even within the darkest of souls. Adapted from Anthony Burgess' novel, the film follows Alex Delarge, a young delinquent whose love for Beethoven is matched only by his sadistic tendencies. One of the film's most shocking scenes, a twisted slow-motion sequence set to Singin' in the Rain, transformed a classic musical moment into a chilling tableau of cruelty. What disturbed censors even more was how Kubrick intertwined intimate acts with violence, blurring the line between eroticism and horror. Despite being hailed by critics as a bold cinematic masterpiece, A Clockwork Orange was banned in several countries, including Ireland, Singapore, and South Africa. In the UK, Kubrick himself pulled the film from circulation after receiving death threats, following accusations that it inspired real-life crimes. For nearly 30 years, it remained officially unavailable there. What made it so dangerous wasn't just the violent content. It was Kubrick's refusal to clearly condemn or condone Alex's behavior. The film forced audiences to confront their own moral limits, questioning whether the state's attempt to control desire and love through psychological reprogramming was more disturbing than the crimes themselves. Even today, A Clockwork Orange remains a haunting reminder of how romantic expression, when distorted by power and violence, can provoke both artistic admiration and social outrage. 5. The Dreamers, 2003. A beautiful band fantasy. Set against the backdrop of the 1968 Paris student riots, The Dreamers isn't just a love story. It's an explosive mix of politics, passion, and taboo. Directed by Bernardo Bertolucci, the film follows an American student, Matthew, who is drawn into the world of French twins Isabelle and Theo. As the trio lock themselves away in an apartment, cut off from the outside world, their connection becomes intense, intellectual, and dangerously intimate. The movie blurred the lines between reality and fantasy, friendship and romance, and especially between innocence and eroticism. Its explicit, full-frontal nudity and controversial sibling relationship were too much for many audiences. It was slapped with an NC-17 rating in the United States, which drastically limited its release. In several countries, including parts of Asia and the Middle East, The Dreamers was banned outright or heavily edited, with entire scenes cut to tone down its raw artistic. Even in countries where it wasn't banned, many theaters refused to screen it due to its unflinching portrayal of youthful exploration and desire. Yet despite the backlash, The Dreamers has become a cult classic, praised for its fearless storytelling and poetic cinematography. It remains a bold reminder of how cinema can challenge conventions, and how censorship often follows when art dares to be too honest. 6. 9½ Weeks, 1986. The film that dared to cross the line. When 9½ Weeks hit theaters in 1986, it wasn't just another romantic drama. It was a cultural grenade. Starring Mickey Rourke and Kim Basinger, the film dove headfirst into a sensual relationship that blurred the lines between passion and obsession. But its raw eroticism wasn't what Hollywood, or the world, was ready for. Directed by Adrian Lyne, 9½ Weeks follows Elizabeth, an art gallery worker, who enters a psychologically charged affair with the mysterious John. Their relationship quickly escalates into a series of provocative games that tested the boundaries of emotional and physical consent. While the film was groundbreaking in its portrayal of adult psychological manipulation, many critics and censors saw it as too bold, too graphic, and far too risky. In the U.S., the Motion Picture Association initially gave it an X, forcing Lyne to cut several explicit scenes just to secure an R rating for release. But that wasn't enough to save it from backlash. Mainstream American audiences weren't prepared for such unapologetic eroticism. Many theaters refused to show it. Conservative groups protested its themes. Even major critics dismissed it as glamorized abuse, despite the layered performances and stylish direction. However, 9½ Weeks told a different story overseas. In Europe, especially in France and Italy, the film was a box office hit and hailed as an erotic masterpiece. Its boldness, once scorned in the U.S., was embraced for its exploration of power, vulnerability, and the dangerous thrill of desire. Over time, the film gained cult status and became a in cinema. Behind the scenes, Kim Basinger later revealed that the emotionally raw scenes weren't always scripted, and that the psychological intensity of the shoot often blurred into reality. That off-screen tension added to the film's controversial legacy. To this day, 9½ Weeks stands as a daring exploration of human intimacy that challenged censors, shocked audiences, and redefined what a romantic film could be, even if it had to be trimmed to be seen. 7. In the Realm of the Senses, 1976. The film Too Real for the World. Few films in cinematic history have dared to blur the line between art and obscenity as boldly as In the Realm of the Senses. Released in 1976, this Japanese-French co-production shocked audiences and censors alike, not just because of what it showed, but because of what it refused to hide. Based on a real and deeply disturbing story from 1930s Japan, the film follows the obsessive erotic relationship between a former prostitute, Sada Abe, and her lover Kichizo Ishida. Their passion spirals into dangerous territory, not metaphorically but graphically. This was no simulation. The intimacy was real, explicit, and raw. Director Nagisa Oshima defended his vision fiercely, calling it an exploration of erotic obsession, not pornography. But governments around the world weren't having it. The film was banned outright in Japan, and even though it was shot there, the developed footage had to be processed in France to avoid prosecution. In the US, it was seized by customs. In the UK, it was heavily cut. In Australia and many other countries, it faced years-long bans. Even the Cannes Film Festival was nervous about screening it in full. But the controversy only fueled its legend. To some, In the Realm of the Senses is a masterpiece, a fearless work of erotic art that exposes the consuming power of desire. To others, it's an exploitation film that crossed ethical lines no director should cross. Yet one thing is undeniable. Few films have tested the boundaries of censorship with such intensity. In daring to depict love as destruction, In the Realm of the Senses became a lightning rod for debate about censorship, freedom of expression, and the difference between pornography and cinema. And perhaps that's the film's lasting legacy. Not just what it dared to show, but what it forced the world to confront. 8. Basic Instinct, 1992. A murder mystery, and a war with the censors. When Basic Instinct hit theaters in 1992, it wasn't just a film. It was a cultural explosion. The erotic thriller, starring Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas, wasn't afraid to push boundaries, and it paid the price. At its core, Basic Instinct was a murder mystery. But what truly stirred controversy was its bold sexuality, raw dialogue, and Stone's now infamous interrogation scene that shocked both audiences and censors alike. The MPAA initially slapped the film with an NC-17 rating, citing graphic sexual content, which threatened its box office viability. Director Paul Verhoeven was forced to re-edit the film multiple times to avoid the dreaded rating, trimming down explicit scenes just enough to secure an R rating, while still keeping the film's provocative edge intact. But it wasn't just the rating boards that had issues. LGBTQ+ activists protested the film for its portrayal of a bisexual woman as a manipulative killer, accusing the filmmakers of promoting harmful stereotypes. Stone herself later revealed that she was unaware of how exposed she would be in the final cut of that infamous scene, calling it a betrayal. Despite the backlash, or perhaps because of it, Basic Instinct became a box office juggernaut and a defining moment in 1990s cinema. It proved that controversy could fuel curiosity, but also sparked a vital conversation about censorship, consent, and representation. 9. Love, 2015. Too explicit for the mainstream. In 2015, director Gaspar Noé shocked the world with a film that blurred the lines between art, erotica, and raw human emotion. Love was not your typical romantic drama. It was an intensely provocative, unapologetically graphic exploration of passion, heartbreak, and memory. Told through fragmented flashbacks, Love follows Murphy, a young American living in Paris, who wakes up on New Year's Day beside his current girlfriend, but can't stop thinking about his lost love, Electra. Their once beautiful relationship unraveled into jealousy, experimentation, and deep emotional chaos. What set the film apart, and ultimately got it banned or censored in multiple countries, was its unsimulated sex scenes, shot in explicit detail and even in 3D. Noé described the film as a sentimental sex epic, meant to capture the beauty and tragedy of true love, not just the physical, but the emotional intensity. Yet, censors around the globe weren't as poetic. Love was banned in Russia, slapped with an X rating in the US, and heavily cut in parts of Asia and Europe, limiting its theatrical release and even sparking protests at some festivals. Critics were divided. Some praised it as brave and emotionally raw, while others called it pretentious and pornographic. But Noé didn't flinch. He had a message for the world. Real love isn't filtered, polished, or always comfortable. It's messy, magnetic, and sometimes just too bold for the silver screen. 10. Lolita, 1962-1997. A romance that shocked the world. Few films have stirred as much controversy and censorship as Lolita. Adapted from Vladimir Nabokov's scandalous 1955 novel, Lolita is the story of a middle-aged man, Humbert, who becomes obsessively infatuated with a 14-year-old girl. While it was intended as a dark, psychological drama exploring obsession, the subject matter was simply too provocative for many audiences, especially in the early 1960s. Stanley Kubrick's 1962 adaptation dared to bring this disturbing love story to the screen. But censorship boards across the US and Europe were quick to react. The British Board of Film Censors demanded significant cuts, while in the US, Kubrick had to fight for a production code seal. To appease censors, the age of the character Lolita was subtly aged up, and the more overtly sexual aspects of the novel were either softened or implied rather than shown. Even so, the film was banned outright in some countries and faced harsh public criticism. Posters had to be toned down. The tagline, "How did they ever make a movie of Lolita?" wasn't just marketing, it was a genuine question. Fast forward to 1997, when director Adrian Lyne, best known for Fatal Attraction, attempted a more explicit and faithful adaptation. Jeremy Irons took on the role of Humbert in a version that dared to go deeper into the novel's uncomfortable themes. But history repeated itself. The 1997 Lolita was banned in several countries, including Australia and parts of Asia. US networks refused to promote it, and many theaters wouldn't screen it at all. Even cable TV stations approached it with caution. Both versions of Lolita remain controversial and are often cited in discussions about art, morality, and censorship. They weren't just romantic dramas, they were cultural flashpoints. Critics were divided. Some saw them as brave, artistic examinations of obsession and manipulation, while others condemned them as inappropriate and dangerous. In the end, Lolita was a story too bold for its time, not because it glorified its subject, but because it dared to depict it at all. And there you have it. Just a glimpse into the world of romantic films that didn't play it safe, and faced the wrath of censors because of it. Some were banned, others were heavily cut, but all of them dared to tell love stories in a way the world wasn't ready for. Which one shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't worry, this is just part 1. More bold and controversial love stories are coming up in part 2, so stay tuned. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, so you never miss a moment of the wild side of Hollywood, right here on Globewise Entertainment. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep watching what they tried to hide.